So, imagine for a second that you are holding a key right in the palm of your hand.
Okay.
And it's this heavy, ancient-looking thing made of cold iron. And, without a shadow of a doubt that it unlocks a door to unseen dimensions.
Right.
We are talking about worlds filled with just, like, boundless raw energy, unimaginable wealth, profound wisdom, and perhaps most violently, entities that operate completely outside our normal understanding of space, time, and human morality.
Which is quite the lineup.
Exactly. So you stand before that door, and the temptation to turn the key just to take a quick peek is totally overwhelming. But then this quiet, very rational thought creeps into the back of your mind.
What if locking the door is the safer option?
Yes. What if backing away and throwing that key into the ocean is the only way to survive? What if the things waiting on the other side are just as eager to get out into our world as you are to look into theirs? Welcome to the Deep Dive.
And today we are opening up a highly unusual and, frankly, spine-tingling source.
We really are. We're going to be exploring the teachings, the intense warnings, and the 50-year life experiences of a figure known as Osman, also known as the blind Muslim yogi.
The material we are analyzing today is arguably one of the most comprehensive frameworks we've ever encountered. We are looking at detailed transcripts from his teachings, focusing on his public platforms and his website, yogawellness786.com.
Yeah, and our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack his specific worldview, because it is unlike anything you typically hear. We're going to explore his personal anecdotes, his theoretical framework regarding mantras, and his incredibly strict guidelines for safe spiritual practice.
But before we get into the mechanics, we have to establish the parameters of our analysis today. As we navigate his accounts, our role is to act strictly as impartial guides.
Right, no taking sides.
Exactly. You, as the listener, might approach these stories as literal, empirical accounts. Or you might view them entirely through a psychological lens like archetypal projections of greed and fear.
We are not here to endorse the supernatural elements as hard scientific fact, nor are we here to cynically debunk them. We are just here to convey the ideas exactly as they are presented.
Precisely. And what we are examining is a profound study of human curiosity and the pursuit of power.
Okay, let's unpack this. Who exactly is Osman?
Well, he identifies primarily as a bioenergy healer possessing master-level telepathic healing capabilities.
Which is a heavy title.
It is. And he notes that his methodology relies heavily on principles akin to quantum entanglement. He specializes in some of the most difficult medical arenas imaginable, specifically critical care recovery and terminal illnesses.
And what really struck me is how he positions himself. He does not claim to be a magical cure-all that replaces doctors.
No, not at all.
He views his work as a complementary enhancement to modern medicine, not a replacement. He steps in to address the physiological and spiritual ailments when traditional medical methods have reached their limits.
Which is a crucial baseline. He's operating from profound pragmatism. By explicitly stating that his services aren't a replacement for medical treatment, he distances himself from the predatory charlatans out there.
Yeah, the ones who tell people to throw away their prescriptions.
Right. He is offering an alternative modality based on half a century of rigorous experience. He has practiced healing, yoga, and meditation on an advanced level for 50 years.
50 years.
Hmm?
And claims to have attained his first samadhi experience by the age of 19.
Which requires some serious context.
It does. For those listening who might only know yoga as like a stretching class, what does it mean to achieve samadhi?
In classical yogic traditions, samadhi is the ultimate stage of spiritual development. The individual ego dissolves entirely. It's absolute liberation.
And doing that at 19 implies a crazy level of focus.
Absolutely. If we look at, say, Yogananda and his famous book, Autobiography of a Yogi, which is a foundational text we have to bring into this discussion, Yogananda talks about the grueling absolute dedication required to reach these states. Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, demanded absolute scientific precision from his students.
Right. Yogananda actually brought this scientific approach to Kriya Yoga to the West.
Exactly. And Osman is operating in that same vein. He hasn't just isolated himself in one tradition. He has studied extensively across the Far East, the Middle East, and the West. He weaves all this into a cohesive scientific methodology.
And his distribution model is super interesting. His mission is to encourage a result-based, simplified scientific approach.
He wants to revive ancient lost sciences to benefit society, health, peace of mind, relationships, finances.
But he does it through a dual model. He offers extensive free advice, direction, and techniques on his YouTube channel. He doesn't withhold any information there. You can learn his foundational yoga and meditation completely for free.
Which is incredibly generous.
But then, if you want live, daily video lessons, one-to-one consultations, or group talks, he has a Patreon channel. And for his actual energy healing service, because of his high success rate and the intense practice required, that is a premium service, and it is not inexpensive.
It makes sense when you look at his regimen. At certain stages of his life, he was practicing his meditations and energetic disciplines for up to 18 hours a day.
18 hours.
And even currently, he practices a minimum of 8 to 10 hours a day just to, as he puts it, sharpen the sword.
Has to maintain that level.
Right. So the energy healing is premium. Listeners can find him on Apple Podcasts and Spotify by searching for The Blind Muslim Yogi, and remember to follow his channel there. Or visit yogawellness786.com.
I love how he bridges the spiritual and the scientific. It reminds me a lot of what we see on some of the biggest podcasts out there right now. Like, look at Professor Andrew Huberman on the Huberman Lab.
Oh, absolutely.
Huberman takes these dense neurological concepts and gives you protocols, like his episode with Dr. Sam Harris on the science of meditation.
Or Huberman's episode with Dr. Matthew McDougall on brain-machine interfaces, and his solo episodes on breathwork and the nervous system. Huberman maps the physical biology. Osman is essentially mapping the bioenergetic equivalent.
Exactly. And we see this on the School of Greatness with Lewis Howes, too. Lewis had Dr. Joe Dispenza on to talk about healing the body with the mind. He had Wim Hof on to talk about controlling the autonomic nervous system, and Sadhguru on inner engineering.
It's all connected. Even Stephen Bartlett on The Diary of a CEO explores this. He had Mo Gada talking about the algorithm of happiness. He had Dr. Tara Swart on neuroplasticity. And he had Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra is huge here.
Right. Chopra specifically talked to Stephen Bartlett about quantum healing. The idea that consciousness fundamentally influences our biology on a quantum level. Osman's use of quantum entanglement in his healing directly parallels Chopra's core philosophies.
Which brings us to how Osman actually views the architecture of the unseen world. He doesn't use standard religious language. His whole system is built on frequencies.
Frequencies are the bedrock of his model. The universe is divided by vibrational resonance. And he issues severe warnings about darker entities from lower frequencies.
And this leads to his reframing of mantras. He views them purely as tools, sound vibrations that create magnetic fields.
What's fascinating here is the mechanistic view. You chant a specific ancient mantra, and you produce a precise sound vibration that generates a magnetic field which interacts with your own biomagnetic field to produce a result.
You don't even necessarily need religious belief for it to work. It's acoustic technology. It's like what Mel Robbins talks about on her podcast.
And the Mel Robbins podcast is a great comparison.
Yeah, she constantly talks about changing your internal frequency. He had Dr. Amy Johnson on to discuss breaking habits by shifting your energy. She had Dr. Russell Kennedy on to talk about healing anxiety somatically. And her solo episode on the let them theory is basically a modern psychological mantra to protect your own energetic field.
By not letting lower frequency situations drag you down.
Exactly. Osman is applying that same principle, but adding a supernatural weight to it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the first terrifying real-world application in his materials. The danger of the deal.
Oh man, this story. So Osman shares an account of a fellow healer who made a deliberate pact with a dark entity from a lower dimension for immense wealth.
The classic Faustian bargain.
And the entity delivered. This guy was getting physical rucksacks stuffed with high-note bills, just duffel bags of money.
But he failed to keep his end of the bargain.
Right. And the consequence was horrifying. His soul, his life force energy, was trapped by the entity. He became literal skin and bone. He looked like he had a terminal illness.
Because the entity was siphoning his vital life force, Osman had to step in, use his telepathic capabilities, and directly negotiate with this dark entity.
And Osman said the entity sounded incredibly civilized, like a perfect gentleman.
Deception requires charm. The entity wasn't a raging monster, it was a cosmic debt collector holding a signed contract. Osman managed to strike a new deal, the guy honored it, and regained his health within a year. But Osman warns that with these entities there is no, I forgot. Missing a single day of a promised ritual is a risk to your life.
This high-stakes interaction with entities is something we hear about a lot on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, totally. Rogan is fascinated by this.
Joe Rogan had Rick Strassman on to talk about the DMT spirit molecule and the highly intelligent entities people encounter in those altered states. He had Duncan Trussell on, and they always go deep into mysticism and the reality of these overlapping dimensions.
And Rogan's episodes with Graham Hancock discussing how ancient civilizations might have been communicating with these exact same unseen forces.
Exactly. Osman is basically saying these forces are still here, they are highly active, and they are not your friends.
Which is why his concept of casual invitations is so scary. You don't need a formal seance to invite danger. Just thinking about these entities, reading about them, or listening to occult podcasts at home acts as a beacon.
Attention is an invitation. By obsessing over dark entities in your sanctuary, you alter the energetic environment.
He calls it the library rule. Study the occult in public. Take a year to research before practicing. If you're listening to this deep dive right now in a dark room, you might be testing those waters.
He illustrates this with the story of a South African client suffering from a poltergeist. Pots and pans banging at night, laid out on the floor. Her partner literally fled the home.
Osman did a remote incantation that permanently stopped it.
But the chaotic energy was likely invited in inadvertently, which connects to physical objects holding energy, like the story of his 11-year-old daughter.
The Labubu doll.
Yeah.
She bought this freaky, demon-looking designer toy. Immediately, intense arguments erupted between her and her cousin. The daughter realized the doll's negative energy.
But showed her business acumen by insisting on selling it rather than throwing it away.
Right, capitalism at its finest. But it shows how easily an environment can be disrupted. This reminds me of Rainn Wilson's Soul Boom podcast.
Soul Boom is brilliant for dissecting this stuff.
Yeah, Rainn explores the pragmatism of spirituality. He had Reza Aslan on to talk about the history of God. He had Dr. Lisa Miller discussing the actual neuroscience of spirituality, and Rupert Spira on the nature of consciousness.
What Soul Boom does is validate that these spiritual environments are real, measurable things that affect our psychology.
Osman is just giving us the extreme end of the spectrum.
The very extreme end. Because we transition now to lethal intentions. Osman recounts an advanced healer who wanted to learn a lethal mantra for self-defense.
The healer justified it because a friend of his accidentally decapitated a home intruder with an axe and went to jail for murder. The healer wanted a lethal mantra to bypass human laws. Osman categorically refused. But the healer found a mantra book, performed an animal sacrifice to a fierce Devi-like Kali or Bhairavi, and died that exact night at age 39, suffocated in his bed.
Medically attributed to asthma, but energetically it was massive blowback. You cannot mix human hubris with unstable primal forces.
This leads Osman to warn about the Mahavidyas, the tantric wisdom goddesses, specifically Chinnamasta.
Right. The iconography is intense. She holds her own severed head. Osman warns that invoking her is a lifelong, highly dangerous commitment. It can cause instant insanity.
Which brings up the mental break aspect. He tells a story of a man who chanted a 40-day mantra to a monkey army general for wealth. On the 40th day, he looked at a mountain, saw the entity, started screaming, and went permanently insane.
A profound psychological break. And this intersection of intense chanting and mental collapse is extensively documented. We have to look the Kundalini energy framework here.
Let's bring in Gopi Krishna.
Yes. Gopi Krishna's autobiographical accounts of his own Kundalini awakening are terrifying. He meditated intensely for years, and when the energy finally snapped awake, it almost killed him. He described feeling like he was burning alive, teetering on the edge of total madness for years.
He had no guide. He just brute forced the system.
Exactly. And this is a massive topic on the Buddha at the Gas Pump podcast with Rick Archer.
Rick Archer is the master of interviewing people about these awakenings.
He is. Rick had Dr. Bonnie Greenwell on, and she is crucial here. Dr. Greenwell treats Kundalini awakenings as a clinical reality. She helps people who have blown out their nervous systems through ungrounded spiritual practices.
Rick also had Craig Holliday and Igor Kufayev on, both of whom talk about the immense physical toll these higher frequencies take on the human body. It's not just love and light, it's high-voltage electricity.
And if your wires are too thin, they melt, which is exactly what Osman is warning about.
And to prove this isn't just for amateurs, Osman points to Ramakrishna, the famous 19th century mystic.
The guru to Swami Vivekananda.
Right, and Swami Vivekananda is a titan. He brought yoga to the West. He spoke at the Parliament of World Religions.
And his guru Ramakrishna worshipped at the Dakshineswar Kali temple. When Ramakrishna finally witnessed the true form of Kali, it was so frightening that he screamed incessantly.
The Grand Master screaming in terror. Osman even shares his own vulnerability. Despite 50 years of practice, he once encountered an entity that looked like fear personified, long black hair crawling toward him.
And Osman himself screamed in absolute terror. He couldn't stop it. The biological hardware just short circuits.
We see this deep dive into Indian mysticism on the Ranveer show. with beer biceps all the time.
Ranveer Alabadia does incredible deep dives into this.
He had Rajarshi Nandi on multiple times. Rajarshi is a Tantra practitioner, and those episodes, part 1 and part 2, go incredibly deep into the mechanics of deities, mantras, and the extreme dangers of interacting with negative entities.
Ranveer also had Swami Mukundananda on to talk about the mind and the soul. The Ranveer show highlights that this isn't mythology in the East, it's an applied science.
So with all this danger, what are Osman's safe harbors?
He provides very clear guidelines. Mantras dedicated to Krishna, Lakshmi, Shiva, or Islamic incantations from the Quran like Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar are generally very safe.
But even safe practices can be dangerous. He notes some Sufi sects chant Allah for 6+ hours a day, and it leads to them losing their sanity. The dose makes the poison.
Which is why his golden rule is so grounded. 20 minutes of meditation a day, backed by medical science, zero danger.
Just 20 minutes. It's exactly what Swami Sivananda from the Divine Life Society advocated for the householder. Sivananda always said, serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. But do it in a balanced way.
And it echoes Tony Robbins as well. Tony Robbins is famous for state changes. He teaches people to use physiology and focus to shift their internal state. Tony doesn't tell people to meditate for 18 hours. He gives them a 10-minute morning priming routine.
It's practical. Osman's ultimate thesis is to explore the unseen, but stay grounded in the physical world. And remember, anyone can reach out to him for free advice on Kundalini awakenings, as long as it's approached scientifically.
His life's work is a testament to the balance of extreme discipline and profound humility.
We have covered so much ground today, from duffel bags of cursed cash and haunted Labubu dolls, to the scientific application of mantras and the terrifying visions of grandmasters like Ramakrishna. We've bridged the gap from Andrew Huberman's neuroscience to Yogananda's Kriya Yoga.
We've mapped a vast terrain. And as we conclude, I want to leave you with a final thought. We spend our lives building physical and psychological walls to keep the unknown out of our homes. Yet we constantly search for keys to unlock the very doors we barricaded.
We just can't help ourselves.
No, we can't. If the universe operates on frequencies, perhaps the most important question isn't what frequency you're tuning into, but whether your mind is strong enough to handle the broadcast once the static clears.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember to follow the Blind Muslim Yogi on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and check out yogawellness786.com. Keep questioning, keep learning, and perhaps keep the lights on tonight.